Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Tuesday, January 31st. It is the last day of January, and we are here looking to finish out the month with a big takedown or two today on DFS NBA. So I am Deb Lutz, also known as D-Lux. Happy to be here with you guys today on this terrific Tuesday. And we've got a nice little mini slate today, which I personally love. I like these 5 to 7 game slates. I find that they're more in my wheelhouse. Maybe I can just do a better job of reviewing everything. But there's some nice pay-up options on this slate, some value plays. We have a few injuries that we're still waiting to hear on. So some good stuff coming at you for the next 30 minutes or so. And no two brains are better than one, since we've only got one brain here. But we will be certainly posting lineups across all the major fantasy providers, those being FanDuel, DK, where we only do core lineups given their policy, and Yahoo. All right, so let's get into it today. What have we got to start off? Games are starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, typical start time. And first off we've got kind of a little bit of a slow-paced, loggy kind of game, that being Miami at Cleveland. The over-under is 211. Cleveland is favored by 4.5, but I expect this one to stay close, being that it's in Cleveland. They are a little bit favored, but you've got most of the key players playing, and this could be a playoff matchup for sure. So something that we want to focus on. But we've got Gabe Vincent is a game time decision. Jovic, Robinson, and Yurtseven are all still out for Miami. And on the Cleveland side of things, Kevin Love is looking like he is going to play, and Dylan Windler is still out. So as I said, really low over-under here, 211, which is a full 15 points lower than the next game. And it's 33 points lower than the highest game on the slate, that being Charlotte and Milwaukee. So, tough to go with a lot of guys here. There's going to be some good defensive play, not a ton of really great pricing, but one or two areas that I did find, and I'm going to go through and let's take a look at ownership. Since we've got some time today, we can spend some time doing that. Let's see here for ownership projections for this game. I'll focus on DraftKings and FanDuel mostly, but and of course it's not coming up. Let's log back in again. It's not letting me log into my account. There we go. All right. So, all right. DraftKings, we've got Tyler Hero at the highest owned at 19.6%. That was one of the guys that I was targeting on DraftKings. I think getting Tyler Hero at this point, the way he's been playing at under 7K, is a really nice value. So he's somebody to look at. Believe it or not, Ricky Rubio is the second highest owned on the slate at 3,200. I don't know about that. He's not going to get a ton of playing time. Both Garland and Mitchell are playing, as well as LeVert. So, I guess you've got, I don't really know why they're seeing Rubio, unless, of course, they just think it's going to be, extreme value, and he gets something like 20 or so DK points. But I just don't think he's going to get enough playing time, so I don't love that call. Jimmy Butler, also pretty cheap, 7,800, and has been playing well since he's been back from injury. The other guy is Kyle Lowry, so he has not been playing particularly well, but at 4,700, if you can get Kyle Lowry below 5K, I think particularly for cash games, that's a nice value. That's where I'm going to be playing him on the cash game. Bam Adebayo just not going there against the bigs of Cleveland, and with everyone else healthy, his usage will be a little bit lower. And then you start to go down the list a little bit. Caleb Martin, 12%. Jared Allen, 12%. Okoro's getting 10%. He's at 3,400. And pretty low down there, you've got Darius Garland at 6%. And the other guy that I'm considering is Kevin Love, 3,500 at 4.4%. He's back off of a few days of injury, and I think he'll get 20, 22 minutes, and he's always a very good fantasy point per minute kind of guy. Everyone else down there at the bottom, I mean, you do have, believe it or not, Max Strus at 4K, only 0.3% owned. So nobody thinks Max Strus is going to do anything today, which means he's probably going to smash that value and get like a 30. That's it for DK on the FanDuel side of things. If we look at this matchup, we've got, and again, I think you're seeing the low ownership because it's a low, low scoring game, so not surprising there. In this case, on FanDuel, believe it or not, Donovan Mitchell goes up to the top spot at 16.6% ownership, and that's because he's at a fairly attractive 8,100 price point. But again, in this game, I'm not necessarily jumping at that one. Butler at 8,400, 14%. That to me is too high of a price point for that much ownership, and with this kind of a slate. And then just calling out a couple of things. Lowry's at 5,200, 9% ownership. You've got Evan Mobley all the way down at 2% ownership at 7,600. Not a bad play there. And then Kevin Love, again, 1.3% ownership, 4K. He may be someone, he's one of the lowest price guys on this slate, and may just be someone that I can fit in on a GPP lineup. All right, so that's it for the first game. Not as much excitement as in some of these other games, so let's go on to the next game, which I've got is the LA Lakers against the New York Knicks. And this is a 7:30 Eastern start time. 2:32 is the over-under. Projected to be a pretty tight game with only a 1.5 point spread, New York favored. So this one's going to be a good game. You've got LeBron James and Anthony Davis both playing. Beverly's out for this one, and Reeves is still out for this one. So they're a little bit light in the backcourt. But with James and Davis both in, like 75% of the usage goes to them. So not a lot of other attractive plays here necessarily. On the Knicks side of things, Mitch Robinson continues to be out. Not sure if Jericho Sims will be starting again, although he's been the one who has been. Everyone else is in for New York. So who looks good here? Well, let's go back to the ownership projections and take a peek, because that was really working for us the last time. So on DraftKings, Jalen Brunson at 7,900 leads the pack with 30% ownership. You're going to see his salary even lower on FanDuel. I like him on DK. I love him on FanDuel. I think he's got a good matchup and solid at those numbers, particularly on cash games. Julius Randle, also strong ownership at 2,700 on DraftKings. 27% on DraftKings at 10.1. To me, that's like just the peak of fair value for Randle. I don't expect him to smash and get a 60. So if he gets, 50 FanDuel points, you're only looking at a 5x. And there are some other guys who do have that upside. So he's probably not someone I'm going with on DK. Possibly on FanDuel, though. Quentin Grimes is getting a lot of ownership at 24%, 4,400. It's because the cheap price and starting at the 2. He's not the guy I'm looking at. I'm going to pivot to Quickly. Slightly lower ownership, a little bit more expensive, 5,100, but a much stronger points per minute guy coming off the bench. He's going to be facing Westbrook defense probably, and I see some nice steals coming from Mr. Quickly today. So good amount of ownership at the top. RJ Barrett also at 20%. Then you get down. Isaiah Hartenstein is only 3,600. Jericho Sims is 4,600. They both have similar ownership. Hartenstein, seems like a bit of a steal at 3,600. Someone that I'm going to be taking a good look at. And LeBron James, all the way down at 2.2% ownership. He is priced up at 11.6. So that's pretty high for LeBron, probably some of the highest that we've seen in a while. I prefer Anthony Davis, 10.4 at 0.3% ownership. Again, not sure if he's playing a full complement of minutes, but he's been so productive in the minutes that he's been playing. And I expect him, it's in a competitive game, I expect him to get up over 30 minutes. You know, if you want to take a gamble on a Schroeder or Westbrook, they're down at less than 0.3% ownership. But I am not going there. Just real quickly on FanDuel and what that looks like, we've got, like I mentioned, Brunson. He's only 7,500. He's garnering 50% ownership. So I'm bummed about that because you know, it's great value, but with that kind of ownership, you know, I guess you can argue it's either hard to fade him because everyone's going to have him, or if you want to go for something different, certainly in a GPP play, you want to stay away from that. Quentin Grimes, 44% ownership, not going there. Very similar ownership here on FanDuel. The only thing really different I'm seeing is that Russell Westbrook's pricing is at 6,700, making him much more attractive, and he jumps all the way up from like less than 1% ownership to over 12%. All right, so let's see what we've got going on in the chat right now. Hey, David Dulac, how you doing? Good to see you, my double D friend. And JT, what's up? How's it going? All right, so you guys are hopping in there. I think hopefully some more will be showing up. I know we moved things back a little bit to the 3:30 time. We've been messing with you guys a bit on, or sorry, 5:30 Eastern time. We've been messing with you guys a bit on that, just trying to get a feel for the balance between, you know, being able to get to some of those injuries and figure out what's going on and give you some real-time information. But also make sure that we're leaving you enough time to review the lineups in Discord. Some of these nights where we're kind of bumping up right against the window to post lineups, it's been a little bit tough. So let me know your feedback, what you like better, 5:30 or 6 o'clock. We're testing both out. So we are going on to one of our 2 8 o'clock games. It is the LA Clippers against the Chicago Bulls. 226 is the over-under, and this is a 3-point spread with the Clippers being favored. So again, pretty tight game here. Should make for some interesting DFS. In this case, Clippers, we've got both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard playing. It seems like they are starting to do a little bit of, when the back-to-backs happen, they're sitting together. So that's got some interesting implications. Typically, we like to focus on one or the other when only one is in. When they're both in, they do, you know, share value a little bit. But I think the pricing is pretty good on these guys tonight, so we'll see. Plus, you've got likelihood that Morris is sitting, so that'll bring some more usage to those guys. You also have Covington is questionable, Reggie Jackson is questionable, and John Wall out. So these guys will be playing some minutes tonight with the tight game, and some of these guys who are typically coming in either off the bench or as part of the rotation. And on the Chicago side, you have Jones is still, actually it looks like Jones might play tonight, as well as Simonovic, who I don't know if we've seen him yet this year, Marko Simonovic. But Lonzo Ball and Jay Green continue to be out. So what am I looking at here? And again, I'm going to use the ownership just to walk you guys through everything. But I do like a couple of plays in this game. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. I put Kawhi and DeRozan on the thumbnail today because it's a bit of a battle between those two guys being traded for each other. You know, possibly DeRozan has a chip on his shoulder since Kawhi has been winning all these championships with the teams that he goes to, but not so much DeRozan. So maybe that takes maybe that plays into consideration. But on DraftKings, we are starting with Paul George, 8,900 and 22% ownership. Fair price, solid ownership. I am leaning towards Kawhi Leonard tonight. He is higher priced, but I think he's got a little bit more upside. That being said, I'm playing around with it a little bit because I do like Paul George against Levine from a defensive standpoint. So I'm kind of going a little bit back and forth and trying to figure out who fits in my lineup. I tend to like them both, but I slightly favor Kawhi tonight. Patrick Williams is getting some really high ownership, 18.7% at 4,900 on DK. He is one of those players that always seems to let you down in terms of fantasy points. That being said, he's been rock solid the past couple of weeks, getting scores between 25 and 30 fantasy points pretty consistently. So, maybe not a bad cash game play. Levine at 8,100, a fair price, 13% ownership. DeSumo, don't trust him, but he is only 3,700. If he gets the start, that's pretty attractive, but he's not been playing well. Vukovic, 8,800 on DraftKings, a little bit high for me, and 12% ownership. There's a lot of great centers on the slate tonight. Vukovic is not a bad play. I think I like his pricing better on FanDuel, but there's a number of centers, both value and pay up, that I like just slightly better. And at 12% ownership, it doesn't excite me that much. DeRozan at 9K, 9% ownership. Derek Jones, I guess he is going to be playing tonight, and he's only 3,100. Somebody that could certainly, he's not going to go off for 30, but he is someone that could get you 20 fantasy points and get you like a nice close to 6x. Reggie Jackson, if he plays, 3,400. Luke Kennard, 3,300. These guys are all in the mid-single digits on ownership. And then the real low-owned, Norman Powell, not a crazy play at 0.2% ownership. He's 6,300. Tonight he's going to be, part of that second team leading the charge. So, not bad. In fact, I'm going to add him to my list because I was not really looking at him, but someone worth considering given that low ownership in a GPP. Okay. Earl, how's it going, Earl Tyson? Great to see you. Top 5 FanDuel plays at center position. Let's see what we got here. I can give you that. Get out of where we are. All right. Who do I like on FanDuel? I'll tell you who I like tonight. I really, really like Larry Nance. I think he is, he's definitely somebody to watch. He is 26% owned. Again, bummed about that. I thought he was a little bit of a sneaky play for me. 4,500. He's been smashing that value lately. Zion continues to be out. And now you've got Daniels out as well, Dyson Daniels. And so I think Nance is going to get some good minutes playing against the Denver D. I think they need his size. And so I really like him a lot. I think he goes for 28 to 30 points. It's a bummer about his ownership percentage, but he's one of my favorites. I think I'm also very high on Jokic. He's at 11% ownership. He's really expensive. But particularly if Murray doesn't go tonight, he is the man, right? He is the offense on that team. And I just think he's going to have a big night tonight against Valanciunas, who the defense on the Pelicans give up a lot to centers. So he is someone that I like. I think Mark Williams is an interesting value play tonight. He's been getting a decent run. And although Milwaukee's not, without Portis, they're not as big anymore, but I like the minutes that he's been getting. On FanDuel, I do like Vukovic, 8,200. He is, I think he's a super fair price at that point. And I like Brook Lopez. I think he's solid from a cash game perspective. The guys that I don't, and Anthony Davis, he's the other guy that I like. So I think I gave you 6 there. Probably half the slate, but who don't I like? I don't think Bam is, I think Bam's a little expensive, 8,700 against the Cavs defense. I think, who else do we have? Jared Allen, I don't think he has a standout game against Bam tonight. Aaron Gordon, just not that much of a fan. So, yeah, those are some of the guys that I would fade. And Valanciunas is probably another guy that I would fade against Jokic. Okay, so with that, let's hop back into the games and take you guys to, I don't think I finished the Chicago game, actually. I talked about Vukovic. Yeah, I guess I did. The Chicago side of things. Talked about liking Vukovic, Patrick Williams. Probably a couple of my favorite plays on that side of things. I probably won't be going to DeRozan. Kawhi Leonard is a very crafty defender. I think DeRozan probably has a little bit of axe to grind, and has put up a lot of shots. Just not sure how many of them are going to fall. Okay. So let's go to the Charlotte-Milwaukee game. 8 o'clock Eastern game, 244.5 over under. The spread right now is 11. So the one risk, this is the most points on the slate, but the one risk is this game blows out. Now, interestingly, last time these two played, Charlotte won in the blowout, and the Milwaukee guys sat and played like 20 minutes each. Vegas is expecting the opposite, with Milwaukee favored by 11. I think Milwaukee is going to definitely want to take care of business. They're at home. They've got all their players healthy right now, with the exception of Portis. They've got to be coming together as a team with Middleton back now. So I think they do take it to Charlotte. So that's the one risk with this game, is that it's a blowout and guys don't necessarily get their full array of minutes. So that being said, we got here. So the pricing was kind of interesting on some of this. I'll go back to DraftKings and let's go to that game. So Mark Williams, as I mentioned earlier, one of the centers that I like, he's leading on DraftKings at 39% ownership. So super high. I think the experts think that he is just going to play a decent amount of minutes, and he's a really solid points per minute guy. So again, someone you can fit into your lineup really easily on DraftKings, and you can play two centers. It's great. I will be playing him. Pat Connaughton's up second at 4,500, 29%. I'm kind of off Pat Connaughton. I think he can have some great games. He is starting, but I just think with the big three playing, I just think his usage is lower, and I'm just not at 29% ownership. There's a lot of guys there in the mid-4s range. I'm not going after him tonight. Giannis is another guy I'm not going after, although he's at 24% ownership. 12K, he's gonna smash, right? But it's a big difference between, does he get 60 or does he get 70? I tend to think he's going to get more like 60 tonight. I think it's going to be spread around a little bit amongst all the different players. And if I'm going to pay 12 grand, I'm much more interested in Jokic than I am Giannis, who I think is going to have higher usage. Brook Lopez, 6K. I do like him. I was surprised that he was at 20% ownership. I think it's a fair price. I think he'll play well. But I was hoping that ownership would be a little lower. Josh Ingles, interesting play. He's getting a lot of minutes, and 16% ownership, pretty high. So who else do we see down the list? LaMelo Ball on DraftKings, 9,500. So he's at 10% ownership. I am not going to go after Ball on DraftKings. I think that's a little bit high, but I do really like him on FanDuel, where he's only 8,000. I'm not on the Rozier train tonight. Probably should be, because he's been killing me. I feel like I never pick him, and he's always smashing, but I am not, nor am I on the Mason Plumlee train. Gordon Hayward, he keeps burning me. He's someone I'll be considering, though, at that low ownership. I mean, he can easily get 30, 35 points a game. That's what he's done in the past. He just hasn't quite gotten there yet. Same with Chris Middleton, 5,400. I mean, when will you ever see Chris Middleton at 5,400? The real question is, how many minutes does he play? I think, with the blowout potential and him still coming back, I don't think he gets 30 minutes, in which case, that makes it a little bit tough, kind of on the borderline for me with a Chris Middleton, only if you can fit him in. Okay, trying to see if there's anyone else I have there. Yeah, so my favorite guys, I think, I talked about Williams, particularly on DK. I like Ball on FanDuel. I like Lopez. And I am fading Giannis and Connaughton. Okay, let's see what else is going on in the chat here. What's up? Aloysius and Prince? Prince is no Pat Con. So does that mean that he's not playing, or does that mean don't pick him? Let's see. So far, I have it that he's playing. Let me know what you mean by that in the chat. But I agree with you. Staying off of Pat Connaughton. And Charles Moran, top 3 value plays on FanDuel. Okay, let me take a look here and see what I got for you. My FanDuel value plays, okay. All right. So I think I mentioned, all right, so Kevin Love was one that I mentioned. He is one of my value plays. I really like Larry Nance. He's another one that's going to be in there for sure. And hang on a second. I don't have the full. I don't have all my players here. Okay. All right, that's better. So, go back to that now. I don't really have anyone under 4K who I trust. It's more in the 4 to 4,500 range. I mentioned Kevin Love, Mark Williams, and Larry Nance are probably my three favorites. A lot of people are going after Quentin Grimes, but I'm not going for it tonight. So those are probably my three. If we stay under 5K, Bones Highland, certainly if he starts in place of Murray, he's a great play. And I also like Jose Alvarado tonight. Probably more on DraftKings and FanDuel where he's a little cheaper. But with Daniel sitting, I think the matchup, particularly if Bones plays, I think the matchup could be really nice for him. He's been getting minutes, and I definitely see him contributing tonight. Okay, so let's head on back to the games, and we've got our last game of the night. It's a standalone game, 10 p.m. Eastern, 231 over under. We've got Denver favored by 6.5. We've got Daniels out and Williamson out, as I mentioned, for the Pelicans. And for Denver, we are still waiting to hear the news on Murray, which is big news. I will be playing Bones Highland at his price pretty much across the board if Murray sits. If Murray plays, I won't be playing him at all. And I might be playing a little bit of Murray, as I really like him against McCollum. But certainly if Murray sits, I'm also all in on the Joker. So just real quickly taking you through the matchup and all right, so on DraftKings, yeah, you've got Murray still sitting at 24% ownership. I think people are assuming he's playing. He's at 7,500. That is a super good price if he does play. And then, as I mentioned, Nance, he's 4,100. I like him a lot, but he has 19% ownership. So, you could definitely do a pivot to somebody who is lower owned. In fact, here, if we look at similar pricing, there were a couple of guys in that range on DK. Again, Max Strus at 4K, Bones Highland 4,300. Those are a couple of the best ones. I wouldn't go with Lonnie Walker. I think his usage is going to be too low. Isaiah Hartenstein at 3,600 is not bad. Kevin Love at 3,500. He was the other one that you could pivot to in the GPP. And Reggie Jackson, if he plays, he is only 3,400. I mean, Reggie Jackson used to be a 5,500 to 6K guy. Where has he fallen? Yeah, so those are some of the pivots that I would say that are lower owned. Okay, so back to it. Daniel, you are welcome. Hey, Doug, how's it going? Good to have you join us. Okay, so back to the matchup and the ownership. Herbert Jones, 13%. Don't love that one. Again, he is low price, but he is a guy who can get you, he can get you like 20 points. And when you've got Brandon Ingram in there, I think it's a whole different story for Herbert Jones because the usage totally changes. I like Brandon Ingram, 7,600. I think Brandon Ingram is going to be $8,000 by I can't say the end of the month because that's today, but the next couple of weeks, and he is less than 10% ownership. Going down the list, who else looks interesting. Bone Highland, as I mentioned, he's only 6.5% ownership. So again, people must be expecting that Jamal Murray's going to play. You know, not super high on Najee Marshall. More interested in Nance, but you know, he's only 1% owned. So again, another interesting pivot. And then Jose Alvarado, also only 1% at 4,900. Not going to be a McCollum night for me tonight, 8,200 with Ingram back in. That's just a little too rich for me. And then taking this over to FanDuel. Ownership is a different story on FanDuel because Brandon Ingram is 7,000, so he's all the way up to 23% ownership. So he is someone that I will definitely be having in my cash lineup. Jokic, 11.5% ownership at 11,400. I like that number a lot. We've got so many guys in the 20s. I like his 11% ownership. Alvarado is 4,700 at 7.9% ownership. And let's see, you have Trey Murphy, 18% ownership, 4,400. He is really inexpensive, but again, I just think that you know, with Brandon Ingram back, his game changes a bit. Although right now they are projecting, him to start and move Herbert Jones over to the 4. So, you know, that is a little bit interesting. I mean, if he's going to get starter minutes, he has not been playing great, kind of mostly in the mid, you know, low 20s. But at that price point, you know, someone possibly, because even if he, you know, 4,400, if he gets a 22, that's 5 times, and all he needs to do is get a 25, and it's 6 times. So really attractive pricing there, but he is highly owned, so I think probably not somebody that I'm going for. Okay, so Chris Pertino, how's it going, man? So you are thinking of putting $100 on Mason Plumlee to double-double. Interesting. All right, you're a Mason Plumlee fan, huh? You know, not crazy. They've been showcasing him. I think you know, I think it's likely that they move him at the trade deadline. So they've been playing him a ton of minutes. You know, more than they had in the last few years. Not that it's doing anything for their winning, unfortunately. But you know, what's he been doing? Let's take a look. I mean, if anything, I think he's a lock on the points. The question is just the rebounds, right? So what is he, about last 15 games? He's probably hit that about 10 of those 15. So pretty decent odds. You're talking like 65 to 68% odds on that. That's not crazy. I think he had a really good rebounding night the last time they played Milwaukee. So what are the odds there on the Plumlee double-double? Let me know. All right, Joe K, how's it going? All right, we got some, I think someone may be spamming us, but Doug L is doing well. I looked at Jones on FanDuel. Jones, you talking about Derek Jones? Who are you looking at? Any other questions in the chat? Oh, plus 120. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Pretty nice. Good luck with that. Good luck with that, Chris. That would be awesome. So unless there are any other comments in the chat, I am done with my my little analysis here. And you know, let's see. Just checking on one last thing. Just going to check and see if we have anyone else with it. Herbert Jones, got it. Yeah, Herbert Jones. You know, he just, when all the guys are playing, he doesn't excite me. I like putting him in when you got one of the guys out, because then he's going to get more usage. But you know, he's probably down around 12-15% usage, which is kind of tough for me. So I don't love it. Certainly not a sure thing at 4,400. So doesn't look like we have any other updates on any of the games. Still waiting for that Kevin Love news. He looks probable. So I am going to be playing him unless that changes. And other than that, I agree with Damien. Let's go. Hey, I'm working on what could be a 5-crown slate tonight. I'm pretty excited about the about my lineups. I'm pretty excited about what we've got with this going on with the slate. So so check it out in Discord, and let's see if we can get some takedowns going there as a family. All right. So good luck, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. And I think tomorrow is Crash and Coach. So you guys at 5:55. So you should definitely be joining in with them tomorrow, and keep going. We're going to keep our win streak alive here. I think we have a couple of nights going, and we will see you tomorrow as we look to crush it in NBA DFS.